Every Republican accusation is at its core an admission, a confession dressed up as outrage. No one embodies that projection more perfectly than Donald Trump himself. The projection president, every lie he tells, every smear he throws, every baseless claim he makes, is simply the truth about him. Take the big lie, for example. Trump's endless rant about a stolen election. It's the ultimate reversal because it wasn't the Democrats trying to steal anything. It was Trump. He tried to overturn the 2020 election and has spent every day since trying to rig the system in his favor for the future. Now that hypocrisy is being called out in the most direct way possible by Vice President Kamala Harris, whose recent remarks on Trump's election interference have left MAGA world scrambling, and she's not alone. California Governor Gavin Newsom also hit the nail on the head, exposing the GOP's cynical redistricting efforts for what they are. A calculated attempt to undermine democracy while pretending to defend it. The truth is, Trump's entire movement runs on projection. Accuse your enemies of the crimes you're committing, and hope the chaos hides your guilt. But as Harris and Newsom are making clear, the cover is finally starting to crack. We're moving forward with a special election on November 4th, coinciding with other local municipal elections, to neutralize anything that Greg Abbott and Republicans are doing in Texas. They do 5 seats, we do 5 seats, and we're not only doing that, we're also announcing as a consequence of this effort, a commitment to national independent redistricting. That's on the ballot as well. We believe it's the right thing to do. In fact, the Democratic Party believes it's the right thing to do. Democrats have voted for national independent redistrict, Republicans have not. So spare me the crocodile tears on Fox. And everyone else saying, oh, everybody does this. Oh, these guys have been gerrymandering for years and years and years, not like these folks have. And we're at least willing to call that out. And in California, we have moral authority because for 15 years, we've had an independent redistricting commission. And we have some of the most competitive races. They may be going to Democrat. That's on the basis of competition. But some of the most competitive districts in America. You're about to hear a flood of lies about Gavin Newsom's redistricting effort. And I mean a flood. Republicans have already made him their next big target, preparing to pour more than $100 into California to derail his plan and discredit the movement behind it. Why? Because they know this fight is pivotal. If Newsom succeeds, it becomes nearly impossible for Republicans to manipulate the system or steal the midterms the way they've tried to before. That's why Fox News and the MAGA echo chamber are already twisting the narrative, calling it anti-democratic, claiming it's an election grab, when in reality is the exact opposite. What Newsom is doing is fundamentally democratic. He is putting the decision in the hands of voters, not party bosses or political operatives. There are no fake numbers, no rigged maps, no secret scheme. The real manipulation is happening in states like Texas, Ohio, Florida, and Indiana, where Republican lawmakers are quietly redrawing districts to cement their power. That's the real election interference, not what's happening in California. And as Vice President Kamala Harris pointed out, these GOP attacks aren't about fairness. They're about fear. Fear of losing control, fear of accountability, and fear of a system that finally gives power back to the people. And the other thing that we talked about, and I didn't even realize this, Maria, until a couple of years ago, that, for apportioning representatives, you actually count illegal aliens. So even though illegal aliens, theoretically, are not supposed to vote, we know sometimes they do, you still count illegal aliens for congressional appointment. So California has way more House seats than it should, because they have such a high population of illegal aliens. So they get rewarded for welcoming illegal aliens into their state, giving them federal benefits, actually asking the taxpayers of states like Ohio to subsidize them. And then those same taxpayers in Ohio and Indiana and elsewhere, they have fewer congressional representatives because of what California has allowed to happen. That's ridiculously unfair. And the only real way to fight back against it is for us to redistrict in some ways as aggressively as these hard blue states have done. J.D. Vance has reached peak desperation. He's now dusting off the oldest, laziest MAGA talking point in the book, blaming illegal. It's the go-to move when the lies stop landing and the arguments collapse. The problem, J.D. Vance doesn't seem to understand the Constitution, the census, or how any of this actually works. And honestly, he doesn't care to. His goal isn't to inform, it's to inflame. The White House even sent him to Indiana to strong-arm the legislature into backing a gerrymandering scheme. But it's been a complete disaster. He couldn't close the deal, and now Trump's aides are scrambling to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is cutting through the noise and focusing on what really matters, calling out Donald Trump's election fraud for what it is. While Vance and his MAGA allies are manufacturing outrage and playing politics, Harris is laying bare the truth that Trump and his inner circle are the ones trying to rig the system, suppress votes, and rewrite the rules to keep themselves in power. It's a contrast that couldn't be clearer. One side obsessed with conspiracy, the other fighting to protect democracy. Here's how I think about it. I think you're right in terms of the effect. I think what they're doing is they're cheating. I think they're cheating. They want to change the current system to make it bend toward the outcome they want. And so, if you believe the public reporting, they get a call that says, hey, redo your lines, even though the fallout is going to include exactly what you said, which is taking the franchise, the vote away from specific communities. And in the case of Texas, Latino and Black voters, and diluting their votes. And this is not a census year, but this is the year with the beautiful bill and the unpopularity of it. And so they want to bend the rules. And I have to say that, those Texan legislators, good for them. That takes a lot of courage. They are actively trying to steal this election, and Vice President Kamala Harris isn't letting them get away with it. Her latest remarks were a full-on takedown of the corruption, hypocrisy, and election sabotage coming straight from Trump's orbit. And honestly, this is exactly what Democrats need to be doing right now. Not just giving speeches, not just sending letters, but fighting back loudly, visibly, and relentlessly. Whether you're in power or not, this is the moment to stand up, to call out the lies, and to defend democracy before it's too late. Harris understands that she's not sitting on the sideline. She's in the arena, exposing Trump's fraud and reminding voters that silence is complicity. Her speech was a rallying cry not just to Democrats, but to anyone who still believes in fair elections and the rule of law. So to find justice and relief, and they are trying to destroy those institutions. They are trying to destroy, shouldn't the American worker be able to know that their government takes care of and is concerned with the American worker's safety, and that we would have an institution that has been designed and would be sustained to protect that fight for safety in the workplace. But we are now seeing we cannot take these things for granted. And again then, since 1971 through to today, this caucus's work is so important. And I know it's not easy. And I know the battles that the members and the leaders in the organization are fighting right now. Yes, life is wrong. Yes, it is. Life is long. In moments like this, and in moments of struggle, the world and the circumstances reveal who the truly strong are, who the truly courageous are, who the truly committed are. And that is you. Recently I convened a bunch of young leaders. I actually just had a chance to meet with some of the young members of the organization just before I walked in, but I met with some young leaders recently. They're part of a national organization, organizing and young people, and I was asking them, tell me what's going on and what you're worried about. And one of the things they're worried about, of course, is that their parents, their grandparents, what it's going to mean as these folks are trying to take away Medicaid. They're worried about what's happening in terms of all of these threats to education. They're worried about the fact that people are trying to erase America's history. They're worried about the fact that they're cutting funding for cancer research. And one of the things that they talked about specifically that they were worried about was happening in Texas. And it was interesting because basically, you talk to a young leader when you really just want to break it down in terms of what it just plainly is. And what I took away from that conversation is that they know those young leaders, people like those elected Republicans in Texas, they have figured out that they can't win if they don't cheat. That's what that's about. Because they know that taking Medicaid from working families, from sick people, is not a winning argument. Cutting education funds, SNAP benefits, is not a winning argument. Getting rid of cancer research to solve the things that people is not a winning argument. So they're cheating, and they want to cheat. But I'm proud that right here in the state of California, there was just a decision made that we're going to take it to the voters, take it to the streets, take it to the people. Americans have not allowed the people who want to cheat democracy. It is time to fight fire with fire, and that's what this moment is requiring of all of us. And so I close by saying, enjoy this evening, enjoy that beautiful room I walked by. I saw there's a celebration and a party happening tonight, and enjoy that you have earned it. And then let's get back out there. Let's continue to stand, because when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. This process knows what you stand for. So let us continue in the fight. We need to be honest about what this political moment demands. Democrats can't afford to sit back and hope the truth speaks for itself. We are in a non-stop messaging war, and the right has been winning it for years. That means we need to fight smarter, louder, and everywhere, especially online. Just look at Gavin Newsom. He's trolling Donald Trump on social media, mocking his posts and turning Trump's own rhetoric back on him. Some might call it petty or silly, but it's actually brilliant politics. It keeps Newsom in the conversation, drives Fox News absolutely insane, and forces right-wing media to amplify his message instead of Trump's. Every night, Fox anchors read his tweets out loud, unknowingly spreading his counter-narrative for free. That's the strategy we need to embrace. Stop reacting to Republican lies and start setting the narrative ourselves. Donald Trump's propaganda has infected public discourse because it's constant, emotional, and omnipresent. The antidote isn't silence or civility. It's volume and persistence. We need Democrats who fight like Jasmine Crockett, who bring righteous anger, who make Fox News so furious they can't help but play our clips on repeat. Because when your message makes it onto their airwaves, when your truth penetrates their audience, that's when the narrative begins to crack. And that's when democracy starts fighting back. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The next one is even more controversial.